Hello everyone. Today we continue our learning React fundamentals, and I think previously we were uh, messing with some buttons, I guess. But okay, yeah. So let's run this project. npm run dev and see where were we. Let's open our console since we were promised that we will open our console. Now reset. Now minus an event handler is a function. Okay, so what we did is that we created uh, this display component and button component, and we have our increase, reset, and decrement method here, and we just pass these methods in on click on each buttons component, and we are using display component to display the counter. Okay, I think this is good. Let's see. I think we were here passing state to child components. So let's read this through. It's recommended to write React components that are small and reusable across the application and even across projects. Let's refactor our application so that it's composed of three smaller components, one component for displaying the counter and two components for buttons. Let's first implement a display component that's responsible for displaying the value of counter. Oh, I think we have also like worked on this. Yeah, right. This. Okay. Let's move to the next phase. Change in state cause re-rendering. Let's go over the main principles of how an application works once more. When the application starts, the code in app component is executed. Definitely. This code uses a useState hook. Let's say we are using useState hook here. So in my app component, I have setted a counter variable with set counter, and I am passing the initial value as 0 with the current hook useState. So setting an initial value of the variable counter. This component contains the display component, which display the counter's value 0. And how will I know that? Let's see. If I go here, or if I just simply reload the page, this is my display component which is displaying the value 0, and where this 0 coming from, here we have passed 0. If I change this to 1, then it is 1. If I change it to 45, then it is 45. So let's 0. Yeah, let's move on. And three button components. The buttons all have event handlers. Which event handler? So these are my three button component. It has event handler called on click event handler, which are used to change the state of the counter. What does that mean? The state of the counter. For example, if I have 0 and if I click on the button plus, then the component is rendered. Which component rendered? The display component. And we have the value 1 since we are incrementing it by plus 1. Now if I click on the reset button, then it will be changed to 0, and again our display component will be re-rendered, and save the minus. Let's see. When one of the button is clicked, the event handler is executed. The event handler changes the state of the app component with the set counter function. Calling a function that changes the state causes the component to re-render. So I am calling this increase count function on the on click it on click event handler of the button component which has text plus. That means calling this function causing our uh, button. No, I think it is like a display component to re-render. Okay. Mm. So if a user clicks the plus button, the button's event handler changes the value of counter to 1 and the application component is re-rendered. So what they mean to say is that our entire app component is re-rendered. This causes its subcomponents display and button to also be re-rendered. Display receives the new value of the counter 1 as props, obviously. So when I click on the plus button, then on the display the counter will be increased due to this function calling, and here we are incrementing the counter to 1 and the counter will be received as props here. Now the button components receive event handlers which can be used to change the state of the counter. To be sure to understand how the program works, let us add some console.log statements to it. Sure, let's actually add them. So we mean to say here rendering with counter value counter. Okay, console log rendering with value counter value. Here I will have my counter increasing value before increasing value before. Okay, now I will also put this here and here. Let's move this into this. Here I will have decreasing and I will have another console log in my reset count stating that resetting to 0. Okay, I have added all the consoles that are necessary as per my instructions. Let us now see what gets rendered to the console and when the buttons plus 0 and minus are pressed. So let's actually look at this. Let's reload this again. So as you might know in my console that there is already a console uh, printing that rendering with counter value 0. That means my this function, sorry, this console log is already there. So let's first commit this as we have built the habit of committing everything. So let's commit this. Add consoles to check re-render behavior. So when I click on plus, so increasing value before 0, rendering with counter value 1. Now my app component is rendering the counter value with 1. Now I am clicking on minus. This is decreasing value before 1. Now rendering with counter value 0. When I click on 0, resetting to 0, value before 0, rendering with counter value 0. Okay. Do not ever try to guess what your code does. It is just better to use console.log and see with your own eyes what it does. Okay, I will keep that in mind. Refactoring the components. The component display, the value of the counter is as follows. Const display is equal to props. Yes, that is what I have done. Let's see. The component only uses the counter field of its props. This means we can simplify the component by using destructuring like so. Okay, so they want me to directly use counter here. Okay, so this is the refactor they were talking about. The component only uses the counter field of its props. This means we can simplify the component by using destructuring. Yeah, this is the line that is important. The display component only uses the counter field of its props. So that is precisely why we can add a counter here. This means we can simplify the component by using destructuring. Now, let's commit this. CRM add destructuring display component main. Now we can simplify the button component as well. How? Let's see. Let's try to come up with ourselves. So here we are using two fields, on click and text. So let's try to populate these things, on click and text. So here we have to directly use this. Now let's see if we have encountered any kind of issue here. Plus reset minus 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 plus 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 reset. Okay, I think it's working fine. And here they have mentioned that I have to just use on click and text. So let's also comment this out. est dot gcism destructuring our button component. Now this approach works because the component contains only a single written statement, making it possible to use the concise arrow function syntax. Yeah, so I think they are trying to say something here that that might not be the case for multiple written components. But how? Let's not think about it much. We will see. Probe changes to material. Nah. So uh, now we are in a really interesting stuff, I guess. A more complex state debugging React applications. Now this is what I would like to work on. Let's see, everything is working fine. Let's reload this and read. Complex state. In our previous example, the application state was simple as it was comprised of a single integer. What if our application requires a more complex state? In most cases, the easiest and best way to accomplish this by using the useState function multiple times to create separate pieces of state. I didn't understand. Let's read this through again. In our previous example, the application state was simple as it was considered of a single integer. What if our application requires a more complex state? Okay. In our most cases, the easiest and best way to accomplish this by using useState function multiple times to create separate pieces of state. So, what it's trying to say that by using useState, we can create multiple state. In the following code, we create two pieces of state for the application named left and right that both get the initial value of 0. Let's see, we have left and we have right. So in my entire component, I have to update with this and see. There is some syntax error. Oh yeah, let's remove this. I think now it will work. So this is my left. It's increasing my right. Okay, left, right. So let's see the code itself again. So I am managing two use state for one for the left, one for the right. Uh, so here I have mentioned the initial left counter. Now on the button next to it, I am using onClick event handler to setting the left counter. Every time if a user clicks on it, the counter will be increased by 1. Now just next to it we have right button, and on that we have on click it event handler, and we have setted the right counter to increment by 1, and the initial value of both is 0. Okay, so let's comment this with counter displayed next to each. The component gets access to the functions set left and set right that it can use to update the two pieces of state. The component state or piece of its state can be of any type. We could implement the same functionality by saving the click count of both the left and right buttons into a single object. I didn't understand. The component state or a piece of its state can be of any type. Mat- Uh, like, what does that mean? The state can be of any type? In the context of code, I am not understanding it, like what it's trying to say. Let's see. We could implement the same functionality by saving the click count of both the left and right buttons into a single object. So let's see, if I click on left, then so what I'm understanding is that if I click on left to increase one, the right will increase also. Is that what it means? I don't think so. In this case, the application would be look like this. Clicks. Okay, so they have like rather than using two use state, they have centralized. And on what basis they have centralized? Based on clicks. I see. Let's follow along this through. Const clicks set clicks starting with US state. I'm initial started to 0. Now what? In use state, here I'm passing an object with the very key value pair called left 0, right 0. Now what I can do is here I will use clicks dot left, and in my set left, instead of set left I will use set left, and here I will use clicks dot left, and here I will use set clicks dot right, since I have access to them. Now I will use clicks dot right. Let's see if what I'm understanding it from the perspective of it, if it's work exactly as it is before. Left. Okay, so it's not working. So there have been something I've done. So let's console log it. Log clicks before rendering. I'll use clicks. They both have a zero value. So when I click on left, so it does increase by one, but it is not showing. If I click on right, clicks before rendering not a number. Okay, so again if I click, so it's displaying the same, and after I think it stopped counting. Okay, so there must be something I'm missing. Let's see. Right, handle left click. Okay, uh so there must be something happening, is that when I click on the left, something happened with the right, and when I click on the right, something must have happened with the left. That's the only assumption I can make out of it, since they have separated the right and left handle click. So let's remove this, and right as well. Cons left handle left click. I have, let's say, use this. I will also have handle right click. Yeah. Now in both of them, I will have cons new clicks, in which left with clicks dot left to 1, and right, and what I will use is set clicks to new clicks. Hmm, I see. Okay, const new clicks. Now left will be as it is, but right will be incremented by 1. And in my set clicks, I will use new clicks. And here I will display the let's left at is it, but in on click event handler I will use this one, this time this one. uh, Handle left click, handle right click. Let's see if we are making any progress or not. When I click on left, nothing happens. Right, nothing happens. That means I have made something here mistakes. Clicks dot left. uh, 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 I have to use this. Okay, so it's working as it is. So uh, this was the issue. I see. Let's comment this. Handling both a left and right button state into single state using single use state. Okay, so the reason why I failed previously, because I am using the destructuring here as well. So if I remove this function passing, I think it should work. Yep, it's gonna actually work. In return statement. Let's continue. Now the component only has a single piece of state, and the event handlers have to take care of changing the entire application state. The event handlers looks a bit messy. When the left button is clicked, the following function is called. Definitely, the following object is set as a new state of the application. This one. The new value of the left property is now the same as the value of the left plus 1 from the previous state. And the value of the right property is the same as the value of the right property from the previous state. So what it's trying to say that suppose the initial state of left and right is 0 and 0. Now if I click on the left button, that means two things happen. First is the value of the left increased by 1. So that means the previous state was 0. The new state is updated 1 with the increased value. Now, for the right part, it is exactly as its previous state. What was it? 0. And right now is 0. And that is why it's happening, because we have defined it like this. When clicking on the left handle, only increase the counter of left, not right. Suppose I am also increase the count of right counter, then what happen is when I click on left, see the right counter also increased by 1, which is not feasible and wrong. So let's put back it, reload, see, okay. We can define the new state object a bit more neatly by using the object spread. Now what is it? I see, using the spread syntax that was added to the language. Okay, so I have to change in my functions. Okay, so this one is that like what they are trying to say, that otherwise parse clicks as it is. Mm. The syntax may seem a bit strange at first. In practice, clicks creates a new object that has copies of all of the properties of the clicks object. When we specify a particular property, for example, right in spread operator with clicks right 1, the value of the right property in the new object will be 1, like this, which is creates a copy of the clicks object where the value of the write property is increased by 1. Assigning the object to a variable in the event handler is not necessarily, and we can simplify the function to the following. Okay, so first let me commit that value with message stgm, uh, writing neatly using thing and the left and right function using spread operators. So main. Okay, so now what they are trying to simplify is that in the case that I'm defining this, I can directly use the object in which I will first pass clicks, the copy of our initial use state hook. Now in left hook, I will increment the counter by 1, so I can directly remove this, and same with this, in which I will pass clicks, and for the right, clicks dot right, increment the counter by 1 and remove the unwanted code. So let's see, it's giving me some error here. Unexpected token. Why? So like here has a property left. Now uh, parsing error, unexpected token colon. Oh yeah, since I like didn't put it into object. Now it should be work as before. Let's click on left. Now let's click on right. Okay, it's working perfectly fine. Now how should I make this commit? One of the uh, also tired thing in software engineering is writing a good commit, because that is also the case where you have seen memes like one person is sitting on the desk and looking at the git commit. So the hardest part is not like solving the problem, but coming up with the name of the commit. So yeah, so what should I write my commit here? Let's say find a new way to handle set clicks. No, uh, simplifying. Let's say simplifying the handle left and right functions. I think that should do it its job. Let's move on to what is next. Some renders might be wondering why we didn't just update the state directly. Some readers might be wondering why we didn't just update the state directly like this. Well, actually, I didn't think of that it can also be plausible. Then why don't we check it? Uh, let's see. First, comment this out. Left dot. Uh, sorry. Click click dot left. Increment the counter. Set clicks here. Set clicks to clicks. But here we have to, like, it's giving me some error, right? This value cannot be modified. Modifying a value returned from useState which should not be modified directly. Use the setter function to update it. So that means it's giving me some kind of error. Let's see. The application appear to work. However, it is forbidden in React to mutate stick directly. That is also, I think, something I should write it down. Uh, let's see, where is my note? Mm, let's see, I will write it down in my notepad. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It is forbidden in React to mutate state directly since it can result in unexpected side effects. So there is an article or something. Let's click on it where it is taking me. Sorry. So what is the question? Let's see. I would like to not use it. Why can't I directly modify component state? Really? I understand. Wow, it is asked 9 years ago in 2016. I understand that React tutorials and documents warn no uncertain terms that state should not be directly mutated and that everything should go through use state. Well, let me have a few drinks of water. Yeah. I would like to understand why exactly I can't just directly change state and then in the same function call this dot set state just to trigger the render. Example below. Mm, they are starting React with require React. I think this is the old way to do it. Create class. So they are using class component and they have used get initial state to a function in which I'm returning some rather deeply embedded stuff. One, update the counter function to this state some rather deeply embedded stuff to this and this dot state just to trigger the re-render. I am all for following convention, but I would like to enhance my further understanding of how ReactJS actually works and what can go wrong or it's suboptimal with the above code. The nodes under the this dot state documentation basically identify two gotchas. That if you mutate state directly and then subsequently call this dot set state, this may replace the mutation you made. I don't see how this can happen in the above code. The set state may mutate this dot state effectively in an asynchronous deferred way, and so when accessing this dot state right after calling this dot set state, you are not guaranteed to access the final mutated state. I get that, but this is not an issue if this dot set state is the last call of the update function. Let's see what they have put it into the answer here. This answer is to provide enough information to not change mutate the state directly in React. Unidirectional data flow. Okay, so it is also giving me another great. The page is not longer exist. Let's see here. Meaning the data flow inside React should and will be expected to be in a circular path. Let's see. I would like to copy this and put it in my notes so later I can just read this. So React follows unidirectional data flow to make React work like this. So what happened is here some kind of action triggered to change the state. So state changes, then that triggered re-render of that component. If component is rendered, then we have a different UI, which is in a view state, and this will continue. To make React work like this, developers made React similar to functional programming. The rule of thumb of functional programming is immutability. Let me explain it loud and clear. How does the unidirectional flow works? States are a data store which contains the data of a component. Yep. The view of a component renders based on that state. Yep. When the view needs to change something on the screen, the value should be supplied from the store. That means props. To make this happen, React provides setState function which takes in an object of a new state and does a compare and merge similar to object.assign over the previous state and adds a new state to the state data store. Whenever the data in the state store changes, React will trigger an re-rendering with the new state which the view consumes and shows it to on the screen. This cycle will continue throughout the component's lifetime. If you see the above steps, it clearly shows a lot of things are happening behind when you change the state. Yeah, I can see that. Like the first state is changing, then the if React provide the state, so this function will compare the value of previous state and current state, and based on that, it can or merge the state, and after that, it will re-render the component, and our UI will be changed. If you see the above steps, it clearly shows a lot of things are happening behind when you change the state. So when you mutate the state directly and call set state with an empty object, the previous state will be polluted with your mutation. Let's read it again. If you see the above steps, sure, I can see something happening. So when you mutate the state directly and call state with an empty object, the previous state will be polluted with your mutation, due to which the shallow compare and merge of two states will be disturbed or wouldn't happen, because you will have only one state now. This will disrupt all the React's lifecycle methods. As a result, your app will behave abnormal or even crash. Most of the times, it wouldn't affect your application because all the applications which we use for testing these are pretty small. And another downside of mutation of objects and arrays in JavaScript is when you assign an object or an array, you are just making a reference of that object or that array. When you mutate them, all the references to that object or that array will be affected as well. React handles this in an intelligent way in the background and simply gives us an API to make it work. Most common errors done when handling states in React is original state, like A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Changing the state in React, need to add 6 in the array. Let's see, we need to add 6 in the array. That means it's going to be change this portion of the code, and our state will change. Bad approaches. Let's see, I'm assigning a variable b and pushing it into this dot state dot a dot push 6. In the above example, this dot state dot a dot push 6 will mutate the state directly, assigning it to another variable and calling such state. The same as what's shown below. As we mutated the state anyway, there is no point assigning it to another variable and calling set state with that variable. Many people do this. This is wrong. This breaks the beauty of React and is a bad programming practice. So what's the best way to handle states in React? Let me explain. When you need to change something in the existing state, first get a copy of that something from that current state. Let's see, that's why we are using spread operator here, and it is giving me that we should not be using the setter function to update. So let's see. I am so first I made a copy of the initial state, and in that copy I am changing the left part to this. So first get a copy of that something from the current state. I used a copy. Now mutating this newer variable. So this does not mutate the original state. Do operations over current state copy and set the new state using state. So that means React will compare this original state with this updated state, and it have a clear picture of what to do. Okay, I think Stack Overflow is still really significant for reading. Let's see. Now mutating current state copy wouldn't mutate the original state. Do operation over current state copy and set it as the new state. This is beautiful, right? By doing this, all the references of this dot state dot a wouldn't get affected until we use set state. This gives you control over your code, and this will help you write elegant tests and make you confident about the performance of the code in production. To answer your question, why can't I directly modify a component state? Well, you can, but you need to face the following consequences. When you scale, you will be writing unmanageable code. You will lose control of state across components. Instead of using React, you will be writing custom codes over React. Mutability is not necessity because JavaScript is single-threaded, but it's good to follow practices which will help you in the long run. If it breaks now, I don't know where to look into. I have written about 10,000 lines of mutable React.js code. If it breaks now, I don't know where to look into it because all the values are mutated somewhere. When I realized this, I started writing immutable code. Trust me, that's the best thing you can do it at a product or an application. Now, this is something I really love. So let's call it let's look more into it. Why can't I directly mutate, modify a component state? Well, uh, let's see. I would like to have a 10 minutes short break since we are, I think, I guess streaming around. Let's see. A short break would be suffix. My short break will be of 5 minutes. That should do it. Let's see. Okay, we are back. Let's see. Pause. So this is really an interesting read. Really interesting. So now I know why I don't want to directly mutate the state. It has a lot of consequences. So let's say changing a state has to always be done by setting the state to a new object, or either copy the initial state and then you can modify it. If properties from the previous state objects are not changed, they need to simply be copied. That is what I just said. Storing all of the state in a single state object is a bad choice for this particular application. There is no apparent benefit, and the resulting application is a lot more complex. In this case, storing the clicks counters into separate pieces of state is a far more suitable choice. There are situations where it can be beneficial to store a piece of application state in a more complex data structure. The official React documentation contains some helpful guidance on the topic. Now let me see what it is. Choosing the state structure. Okay, the changes. So they do have something. I say. I feel like I just need to like reread this. Now we have handling errors. So I have a feeling that I might just read this because it will be very important. So React version 19 has came out. Let's see when was it? Mm, 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 mm. Read to guide, 90 keynote. What's new in React? So the 2.1 came out in December 2025. React Conf. Lydia Helly. Let's see. I will read this or watch this later. Choosing the state structure. Structuring state well can make a difference between a component that is pleasant to modify and debug and one that is a constant source of bugs. Here are some tips you should consider when structuring state. You will learn when to use a single versus multiple state variables, what to avoid when organizing state, how to fix common issues with the state structure. Principles for structuring state. When you write a component that holds some state, you will have to make choices about how many state variables to use and what the shape of the data should be. While it's possible to write correct programs even with a optimal state structure, there are few principles that can guide you to make better choices. Group related state. If you always update two or more state variables at the same time, consider merging them into a single state variable and avoid contradiction in state. When the state is structured in a way that several pieces of state may contradict and disagree with each other, you leave room for mistakes. Try to avoid this. Avoid redundant state. If you can calculate some information from the component's props or its existing state variables during rendering, you should not put that information into that component state. Avoid duplication in state. When the same data is duplicated between multiple state variables or within nested objects, it is difficult to keep them in sync. Reduce duplication when you can. Avoid deeply nested state. Deeply hierarchical state is not very convenient to update. When possible, prefer to structure state in a flat way. So I just read this through, but I'm not like understanding much out of it unless I can like jump into the code and see what does that mean directly. The goal behind the goal behind this principle is to make state easy to update without introducing mistakes. Removing redundant and duplicate data from the state helps ensure that all its pieces stay in sync. This is similar to how a database engineer might want to normalize the database structure to reduce the changes of bugs. To paraphrase Albert Einstein, make your state as simple as it can be, but no simpler. Now let's see how this principle apply in action. Group related state. You might sometimes be unsure between using a single or multiple state variable. Should you do this? Let's see x, set x, use this, or y, or this position, set position, use state. Yeah, because this is just what I right now did, and I didn't even think of that. Uh, that I can write something like this. Technically, you can use either of these approaches, but if some two state variables always change together, it might be a good idea to unify them into a single state variable. Then you wouldn't forget to always keep them in sync, like in this example where moving the cursor updates both coordinates the right dot. I say, so what they are doing is we have a use state with position and set position and axis of x and y, which is initially set to 0. Let's see, reload this. It will be on this 0. Now, let's see, I would like to have my console here. If I can make that is, obviously I can make, why can't I? So log position. Okay, so this is how, so on each render, the console is rendering. I see, this is neat stuff. I like it. On pointer move, set position, e client x, e dot client y. Where is this client coming from? Hmm. Another case where you will group data into an object or an array is when you don't know how many pieces of state you will need. For example, it's helpful when you have a form where the user can add custom fields. A pitfall. If your state variable is an object, remember that you cannot update only one field in it without explicitly copying the other field. For example, you can't do set position x is equal to x set to 100 in the above example because it would not have the y property at all. Instead, if you wanted to set x alone, you would either do yeah, in my previous code I did exactly this one. Either do set or split them into two state variables and do set xy. Avoid contradiction state. Here is a hotel feedback form with is sending and is sent state variable. So in this form, I have three use state that have used. One is for text. Let's say it's good. Now I have a send button, and for that, I have two actually state. Rather than calling it a state, how should I say two scenarios? One is on a sending state, one is after the action is completed, one is the action is currently ongoing, and one is action that is completed or not, to check completed or not. So basically, if I have to like give in a real simple English, that I can say there are two use state. One is for checking if the ongoing current operation is ongoing or not, and another one is for checking if the operation is completed or not. And for that, I am using use state of that initial value as false and setting my text to empty string. Okay, let's see. If I say right here, so that means I have some text that I have to first clear it, then I will write it's good. So before that happen, I will remove this and write here it's good. Now I have a async function handle submit e dot prevent default that will re- uh like prevent for page reload. Set is sending to true, await send message text. So there is another function called set message text. Set is sending false, set is sent true. If is sent found, thanks for feedback. Return or submit when handle submit button. I want to know how was your stay at the prancing pony. Text area is disabled, is sending. So currently it's in is sending mode. Value is text. On change, I would like to see the targeted value. Okay, okay. Now there is a break and there is a button. Disabled is sending a type submit. Now there is a send message function here at the bottom of the code. Let's say return new promise resolve after the 2 seconds. So when I click on it, it should be showing something or something like uh, pop-up or something. There is no pop-up code implemented, so I don't guess not. Let's see what happens when I click on the send button. I say, okay, understood. So let's reload it again. So it is just a mimicry of what it's happening behind the scene. So when I write code here, so currently this text is sending true mode and is sent false mode. When I click on this button, so what it's gonna do is it will set is sending to true and it will call a send message. So and for that amount of time it will display this button like sending, and after 2 seconds it will give me this eh, like UI like setting things for the feedback, and it will check if is send is true or not. So let's click on it. It will say sending after 2 seconds. I am going this. Now this is something really neat. Right, this code, while this code works, it leaves the true open for impossible state. For example, if you forgot to call set is sent and set is sending together, you may end up in a situation where both is sending and is sent are true at the same time, which is wrong. The more complex your component is, the harder it is to understand what happened. Since is sending and is sent should never be true at the same time, it is better to replace them with one status, which is state variable that may take one of three valid states: typing, sending, and sent. So now they are moving forward with a state like this, implementing the status which use state typing. Okay, let's complete this. Then I think I will end the stream for today for this only, and we will continue using reading avoid redundant state. Let's complete this. So they have done is what they have done is let's see. They have used one status, set status, in which uh, initial state, setting the initial state to typing. Let's see, even if it's not this go. So now set status to sending. When I click on this, it will set status to sending, and after this function is run, then it will set status to send. Now I'm defining is sending status to strictly to sending, send to send. So this will be a same code but much more secure in in a way that cannot that can work in a complex code as well. You can still declare some constants for readability, like it's sending, but they are not state variables, so you don't need to worry about them getting out of sync with each other. So, folks, I am ending stream today for this here only, and I will continue tomorrow with the same state here. Let's say today we learn about states and complex states that would can be happen. My intention was to read this through all along, but let's say I have other things to do. So yeah, I'm ending the stream today. It was fun. Let's see. We will meet in the next one.